Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. I was sick Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Went and visited family for 4th of July, Friday, Saturday. Came back today. So I haven't really done a show in a week, and I don't really want to do a show right now. I still don't feel too hot, but I think it's a good. It's important. The most important days for the gym are the days you don't want to go that you still end up going. Um, I think the most important days that I do the podcast and build the podcast are the days where I still don't feel like it, but I just do it. I don't particularly want to do it. I still don't particularly feel good, but whatever. Um, and It always throws me off when I start recording and the microphone isn't on. I suppose that's only on me. There's really no one to blame for that. You're just stupid. Um, all right. Well, I was wanting to pick up on was just the AI, AGI, blah blah blah. And I want to preface it by saying there tends to be, it feels like, at least in my limited knowledge and understanding of Earth and the activities on it, are that there are kind of two camps with AGI, AI, whatever you want to call it. There are the reduction, and for lack of a better term, there are the reductionist materialists. Say it's nothing. This is just the large language models. Okay. They're the people that say it's going to be Silicon Jesus and take care of us. Okay. I don't know what the answer is, and it doesn't matter in my mind because we're still pursuing it. It doesn't matter if there is or is not a fountain of youth under Mount Everest. It does. It does matter. But what does not matter is if there are people saying there is a fountain of youth under there and it's going to last it, and it's an eternal fountain, meaning everyone can drink from it, or it's not an eternal youth, it's some weird ancient fungi that has anti-aging properties. Regardless, you have a bunch of nation states dumping in trillions of dollars, deploying the Marines, getting out big, tunnel boring machines. That's what I'm looking at. I'm like, that matters. The movement of materiel, of manpower, of intellect, of dollars, of actual energy, kilowatts, megawatts, whatever. That's what matters. And the ripple effects that has. Now, does it matter if there's a fountain of youth? Absolutely. It absolutely does. But to me, I'm more looking at the thing that those are big ifs. Does it even exist? If it does exist, is it eternal or is it limited? All important. I'm looking at, there are a lot of people getting ready to dig. I'm looking at the effects of the digging, for lack of a better phrase. That's very real. I was saying before I realized I'm retarded and the microphone was off. Now I'm just like paranoid. I keep looking at it, seeing if the mic's on. I was saying I remember reading. Excuse me. I don't care when people cough or sneeze. I'm not a fan of chewing. I really don't like the clearing of the sinuses, so I'm gonna try not to do it. I was saying I read the book The Singularity is Near in spring 2009 because I was sitting in a Jeep for several hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, for about a month straight at a fire department because I was caught drinking. I was caught with alcohol under the age of 18 the summer prior and had to do community service. Shout out to those firefighters. They didn't really care. So I read The Singularity is Near by Raker as well. And he lays out the exponential growth of technology, which obviously isn't a novel idea. It's exponential growth. Exponential growth is always exponential. The hockey stick isn't real. The hockey stick is only real when it hits a moment that it is meaningful to you. It's always exponential, but the important part, quote unquote, is it's because it's whatever happening in your lifetime or your kids' lifetimes. And his is interesting because if I recall, he looks at technology as, I think it's less of technology, more about just like complexity and evolution. protoplanetary disks, accretion disks, stars, second generation stars, where the first ones go supernova, and then they see the second ones, and whatever. I think the first ones are only hydrogen and helium, and whatever the protoplanetary disks. And then he looks at it as like the Great Bombardment period, all the asteroids, the heating and cooling, the original anaerobic fungi, the single cellular to multicellular prokaryotes, eukaryotes, whatever those old ancient ones were, the changing of the atmosphere to oxygen through anaerobic bacteria or fungi to make an aerobically friendly biosphere, to the single cellular, multicellular, super multicellular tissue, organ systems coming out of the ocean, get legs, move on surface, air breathing, reproduction, DNA replication or RNA replication, splicing, forming groups of animals moving together, standing upright, the throwing arm, the opposable thumb, agricultural revolution, spoken language, written language, fire was way before that, city states, inner city state commerce, nations, religions, histories, the wheel, all the way up. The point is he doesn't start with the transistor or the microtransistor or the whatever the semiconductor. What's the logic gate? What's the tiny things? Transistors? How many transistors you can? What are they doing in Taiwan? That shit. And he paints it, and it's when you look at it that way, it's dead on. It's just logarithmic, just going up. Really, only in the last century or so has it hit a point where we're kind of aware of it. Where, from what little I know, if you were born in 1500 versus 1700, not a whole lot changed. Like your grandpa and your grandpa's grandpa and your grandpa, you're probably all blacksmiths or something. 1800 to 1900, 1900 to 2000, it obviously gets, your grandparents grew up and they didn't see a radio till they were, in their 20s or hear a radio. Your parents grew up and we didn't have the internet or color TV or whatever. Even now, it's like, yeah, I mean, I kind of remember learning about Google in like middle school versus you grow up now and whatever, TikTok and brain rot. I don't know. It's moving so fast now that it's no longer just in my day we didn't have that. It's kind of like we're all experiencing it kind of in real time, where you're actually seeing it happen. It's God bless, but it's all the flood victims in Texas just a day or two ago, right? It rose 25 feet in 45 minutes. That is change. That is meaningful change that we can all see and we cannot ignore. If that were to be technology as opposed to just a river. And he paints out that it now granted, it's like looking at the stock market and you look at a single year and it's you got your heart in your stomach, you're like, oh, I can't invest in that, versus you zoom out at 5-10 years and it's like, yeah, no, there's a mean. The thing with looking at where we are in the exponent, at least in his eyes, is so he's looking back over hundreds of millions of years. It makes a pretty even line through the average. Where we're looking at now, the difference between 2010 or 2020 or 2030, even to us, we're like, oh, you're a decade off. That is like brain surgery in terms of when you're looking at billions of years. So I kind of give him a little leeway. Like, you're probably gonna be off a decimal point. If you're off on a decimal point, coming from billions of years looking back to now, yeah, it's gonna be, you're gonna wobble. It's like putting one extra penny in a bank account in the year 1650. It's like that's going to have a significant effect if you cash out in 2025. But if I remember, his whole thing was that it's going to be, his whole thing was like you're going to be able to buy a computer that has the same intellect as a human, like a laptop by like 2019 or 2020. By 2025, you're going to be able to buy a laptop that has the computing power of the whole human race. He's obviously off on that. I don't, however, think any of us think that that's not going to happen. And then right here is kind of where the fangs come out. It's not sentient. It's just a large language model. I don't care. It's just, it's what it is. And That's just what it is. Um, it's either it is or it is whatever the thing. The point is we're pursuing it. Um, but I don't even remember. Did I say it in this one or did I say it in the last one when the mic wasn't off what about digging? I don't even remember. Um, but to me, the importance is the pursuit of it. I literally don't remember if I just used this example in the previous one that didn't record. Maybe I'm stroking out. If they're founding youth under Mount Everest, it really doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. It does, but it doesn't, because what really matters is every nation state is deploying their militaries and tunnel boring machines to get to the center of it. That's what matters, to me at least, because that's here and now. Whether or not the founding of youth exists, deal with that when it gets here. Everyone's mobilizing for it. So that's Ray Kurzweil, and I read that in 2009 and then kind of just didn't look at it forever. I was like, whatever. Last summer, I read an article called Situational Awareness by Leopold Aschenbrunner. He graduated Harvard at like 16 or Yale or some shit and worked for whatever. And his whole thing is about like how it's here. The race for AGI is here. And again, you have people that kind of start frothing at the mouth. Like, it is sentient. Consciousness comes from complexity. You have other people saying it's just a sophisticated calculator. I don't give a. What is very relevant is the fact that everyone is going to pursue it to find out for themselves. That's what matters. It doesn't matter if there's nothing behind door number 3. The fact that a lot of people think there might be gold behind door number 3 is very important, especially if you live in the hallway where a bunch of grown men are going to be sprinting towards door 3. So that's how I'm looking at it. And Aschenbrunner says that, the race, the Manhattan Project for AGI has probably already begun. It's probably out somewhere in the Nevada test site, Area 51, or central United States, Cheyenne Mountain, $1 trillion clusters, the race for all the rare earths to make the things, the nuclear power plants that are going to be needed, because he says that's the real bottleneck. It's less about fabrication capabilities and less about industrial might, because like we know what it is that you need to build, but it's about who can power it. And I read that article last summer, and I remember like within a month or two, there are just these tiny news blurbs like Amazon buys up like basically every like kilowatt hour from like a nuclear power plant. And it had like never been done before. And then Tesla or XAI did the same thing. And then Microsoft did the same thing. And then OpenAI did this. Like they were all buying up like essentially local nuclear power plants. Trump gets in office, first thing he does is the Stargate program, which it's not an actual U.S. funded. Maybe it is. I haven't looked into it enough. It's not an actual U.S. funding thing. It's rather it's slashing the red tape or the bureaucratic roadblocks to using nuclear power. So if you know what to look for, you can kind of see like, yeah, it is kind of happening. Um, and then just recently, not just recently, but it's been kind of brought up a couple times. Somebody said it on my show the other day, and it's so okay, yeah. So there's the new U.S. Army division that named a bunch of like uh tech bros. They gave them official like military titles as lieutenant colonels. I think it happened at Facebook, Google, like Amazon, like all the shit. Everyone's like, well, I don't like that. But that's an important thing to look at. You got to look at it as if you know everything. You got to look at it as if it's reading about the Manhattan Project in 2025, looking back and it's all declassified. You got to start looking and go, well, like what little crumbs were there? You go, oh, all the power generation from Tennessee, and no one knew what it was all for, and it wasn't building anything. Like, and you're doing it during wartime. Like, what was that for? Like, it's odd. All these scientists coming over, they're all quarantined. They've all seemingly gone into this black hole at Nevada or New Mexico. What is it? FDR signs a 2 billion, which was big dick money in 1942, 1943. $2 billion. That's wild. If you knew what to look for, you could look back and go, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense now. And you could say, well, how come the people didn't notice it back then? Like, were they stupid? And no, it wasn't that it was like a new division of the Navy where we were secretly building an additional couple aircraft carriers, because logic would lead to that way. If you did notice, which you didn't have the internet back then, but if you did, you would probably go, I can tell, like Harry Truman, when he was VP or when he was a senator, he was tasked with finding waste, fraud, and abuse in the armaments industry, because it was like 93% of the U.S. economy or some shit, or 93% of spend, whatever. And he was pretty good at tracking down them guys who were like double dipping with, charging twice for parachutes or whatever. And fuck those people. But he found this thing in Tennessee, and he was like, all this money and all this power is going into this like series of factories, and nothing's coming out. And he brought it to someone in the military, and then in response to that, General Leslie Groves went and met with him, who I think headed up the Manhattan Project, and was like, hey, kind of put his hand on his shoulder, like, you're doing good work. Don't just ignore that. Look the other way. And he was like, all right. He becomes president. It's not until his 13th day as president that they brief him on Project S1, the Manhattan Project, the A-bomb. So even if you knew where to look, let's say you are Harry Truman, there's no internet, but as far as information goes, you're probably privy to more than anything. You're a senator. You're, top 100 power brokers. And it's during a war, and you could probably look around, and your rationale would dictate, like, this is either fraud, a lot of shit's going into one spot, and I'm being told to look the other way, or, we're building. You might go, oh, we're building an entirely like second fleet of aircraft carriers for the Pacific Theater. You'd be like, oh, like you'd be like, oh, that's so like the Nazis in Japan think they know how much we have, but we actually have more. It would dictate that, or maybe we're building like 10,000 B-17s and we're just gonna saturate Germany. Logic would dictate that. If it's not fraud, logic would dictate that it's something existing, just amplified. Or maybe it's not simply numerically amplified. Maybe it's a new kind of tank. Maybe it's a new kind of whatever. Right? Maybe it's a new kind of gun. Maybe we've reverse engineered the MG 43 or 34. He's not stupid for not going, oh, all this is going in there. Maybe they're cracking the laws of physics as we know it and creating a reproducible star. Like, he's not a stupid man for not drawing that conclusion on his own, right? I feel like that's, if you're a top physicist and you had the information Truman had, you'd probably go, oh, but if you're a top physicist and you knew that information, you were at gunpoint probably in the project. So, so if you knew what to look for, let's just assume we do. We probably don't, but for the sake of I need to fill a block of time right now for a podcast, let's assume we do. Execs being these tech bros who, is Trump necessarily buddy with the tech bros? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, but they're really cozying up. That tells me there's a bigger common enemy, and it might not even be China or Russia. It might just be that someone else could get AGI. And again, to me, it does not matter if AGI is sentient or not. If you look at just like the instant, indistinguishable, realistic 4K video it can produce in real time of anything you imagine, I don't care if there is a being in there. Sure, there's some like ontological, things you need to address in your mind, but what does it matter to me? What does the difference matter? You can still use Grok in real time. I don't care if Grok is actually 10,000 Indians in a warehouse answering your questions in real time. If we're getting it in real time and it's accurate, to me, I'm like, that's a fascinating development in technology. So it's undeniably capable. Also, I don't know if it's like the norm, but my air conditioner, you got to bring it down 2 degrees at a time. and then let it turn off and then move it 2 down again. If you try to move it for whatever reason, if you try to move it 3 or more, it never turns off and it also never cools. It just like runs itself into the ground and then it breaks. So I was gone and I had my air conditioner set at like 80 to save power so we can build AGI. Um, so you got these tech bros becoming military colonel. Look, why? Let's just be very. It's not the. It's not the. The revolving door, which still isn't right, but whatever. It's not the iron triangle. It's not the revolving door. You're a senator or you're a Grumman guy, or you worked at Rand or DARPA, and you get a job here and a job. And by the way, there's a reason we have the best military in the world and have the most advanced equipment. Because guess what? We let you get a little rich off of it. Why would capitalism be any different with the machinery of that? I don't. That's save that for another time. But there's a reason why not only do we have the best phones and the cheapest fast food, but also have the best bombs. It's not out of the kindness of your heart. It's out of dividends. It's out of taste. We let everybody eat. We have all these guys being made colonels. I don't know anything about chain of command, but the fact that they're being given anything, that's not some ass kissing. I remember back in like 2010 or 2011, like Zuckerberg was doing something with the military. I would imagine with surveillance, and there were all these pictures of him at like Fort Bragg or some shit or Fort Meade, and everyone's like, "This is a bad marriage of corporation, whatever." Probably is, but some multiple tech execs from different companies are all being. That tells me that's not some honorary thing, and it's also not some revolving door where you scratch our back, we scratch yours. To me, that looks like something's being expedited. Something's being facilitated. Something's being sped along the tracks. What could it be? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it really is the B-21 Raider. Maybe it really is a new the DARPA. What is it? The Manta Ray, the underwater UAV. Maybe it really is Space Force. I don't know. But it really looks like some guys were brought in, given some clearance, and probably given a quick rundown. Like, all right, you weren't in the military, but we're going to do this real quick. You're now part of the national security apparatus. We're going to monitor all your phone calls, all your texts, everything. If you do anything, your wife and kids are going to mysteriously die in a car crash. You're now in this special access program. Giddy up, hoorah. I'm not even against it. So we have that happening. We have the Stargate project, was a huge, to my understanding, slashing of the bureaucratic hurdles impeding uh, getting civilian access to power generation from nuclear power plants. Well, what is the bottleneck of nuclear power plants for? What would be so monumental that you would have all these climate change people immediately just dropping it? What would it be? Just could it be a new form of hydrogen bomb that's a zillion times stronger? Maybe, but Edward Teller already pioneered that, so no. But let's pretend. What would it be like? What could fit? What could fit like the silhouette? Maybe it's a web. Doesn't necessarily have to be AGI. Okay, the access to the nuclear power plant, power generator. Okay, but we have this other thing. We have the big tech execs just being made military officials. What could that be? Surveillance, maybe, possibly. But we have both these things happening at the same time. So you can't just look at the outline of one and look at the outline of another and say one is one and one is the other. No, the Venn diagrams are overlapping. So now what fits that and also fits that? Does every person in New England have an Irish ancestry? This is a terrible example. Uh, every episode Tommy does is based in America, but not every guest is based in America. So it's the Venn diagram. What? It's not a good one. I'm still don't feel too good. I'm foggy. But you have to look at both of those at the same time and go, what piece fits both of those at the same time? Okay. And then the thing I held up, I think, in the last one before I realized I wasn't recording was AI 2027. Where is it? Come on, where is it? Is it? Where's the link I sent? Why am I getting mad? So it was AI 2027, a realistic, yeah, a realistic takeover scenario. I'm such a boomer. I'm like, you see the screen on your pooter? The channel is Species Documenting AGI. The video is AI 2027, a realistic scenario of AI takeover. It was uploaded a month ago and has 2 million views. Okay. Well, that's out there. You have Leopold Aschenbrenner, who wrote the article, and he's not a nobody. He's some AI savant who's working at these corporations as a teenager. And I love his take on it the most because it's a little optimistic, but from what I gather, I don't know anything about him. I've tried to get him on the show. I can't get him to respond. To him, or at least in his writing, any good or bad, it seems to just be like window dressing. It's like happenstance. If it seems optimistic, that's more on like the eye of the beholder. He's just looking at it for what it is, and it's very realistic. And that's why he's not even listing it off and then saying this is why it's evil. He's just, you can tell he's actually interested. It's like what Bob Lazar said. Bob Lazar's like, if I could go back in time, like would I do what I did? He's like, absolutely not. I wish I'd stayed at Area 51 and got to play with UFOs. What the fuck do I care? He's like, I'm a geek and I just love physics. He's like, I wish I. And to me, like that's like an honest answer. He's not like I'd do it all again. He's like, no, I'd do none of this. The money wasn't good, but I got to play with anti-grav technology. What? That's what, to me, that's what leads a little credence to maybe he's being honest. Aschenbrenner's interviews, to me, give a little credence that he's being honest because he's like, this isn't gonna be, you're not gonna have these like tech giants in California cracking AGI and hacking computer systems. He's like the nature of power won't allow that. It's like you didn't have like Bell Labs or like Martin Marietta developing nuclear bombs on their own. No, it gets consolidated to the apex of the power. And whether or not that's right or wrong, again, it's beyond the scope of what I'm saying. That's what power is. It's what the CIA is. Just what it is. It's like that's where it would coalesce to. And then so the AI 2027 is, so the real crux of the matter is when you start using AI to research AI. So it's when you no longer need to have 100 of the world's best AI researchers. So you have them, but then you also make 100 duplicates of them that are IQ equivalent machines with novel problem solving ability. And you run them 24/7. They never need food. They never need water. They don't need a smoke break. They don't have glucose crashes. They don't have emotional things. They don't care about the holiday. They're okay with working Friday night. The very first thing you do is you would use those 100 ones to probably say, hey, duplicate yourself. So you have a couple hundred. And I would imagine you'd have a section of them working on more duplications and another section on advancing AI or making smarter duplications of themselves. So you wanna copy and paste the Marines, but then you also want to leave a section and go, can we produce a Delta Force? Because if we can, stop copying and pasting the Marines and now put all assets into duplicating Delta Force. Then you use Delta Force, you go, we're gonna duplicate you with a section. The next section we need to make whatever. Delta Force 2.0. And once you do that, it starts going exponential to where a month or two difference could be the difference in who leads the world. And even though we might be neck and neck with China, once the exponential lip really goes crazy, it could all of a sudden get to a point where you're not 2 months ahead. It's where if you're 2 months ahead, there might be a window opening where all of a sudden, for like a brief couple days, you're 20 years ahead. Well, then what would you do in that 20 years ahead? Sure, you could just push further down on the gas pedal and say, let's get 50 years ahead. Or you could take your 20-year supremacy, turn around, and go destroy the competition, kill them. And so that's the idea of like, well, then China knows that too. And so they might nuke us. And then eventually it gets to a point where it's less and less about, it might not even be that one of you has a whole lot more compute power than the other, but you're not giving it full autonomy because the nature of power is you're using this to get power. It shouldn't be a surprise that they also don't want to lose the power to it because that's the whole pursuit. Eventually you have to just sort of go, so let's say we have 100 computer units. We'll just say that. Let's say China has 75, has 70, 50. Say they have 50. We're ahead of them. We're about two times farther ahead. But maybe we're only giving it 49% autonomy. China is also giving theirs whatever 49% autonomy, but they might start to get desperate and give it 100%. And they would have incentive to do so because although they don't want to give it full autonomy because that would seize power and you're doing this for the pursuit of power, so that would be a catch 22. What you don't want to do is lose. So you might give your 50 units 100% autonomy. Well, if America has 100 units at 50 or 49% autonomy, that's 49 units. They could take 100% of their 50 and go after you and technically lead. So there's also this weird race to the bottom of like giving up autonomy to it. Saying that it can't speak, and it's because sometimes like the machines will like make up their own language to talk to each other more efficiently, but they could also be coming up with shit behind our backs. I still feel nauseous. We'll wrap it up soon. What you might want to do though is go, well, then we could say, let's just make sure we have 1,000 compute units. So even if China gives it 100% of their 50, we could give ours 10% of our 1,000 and it would still be twice as much. So I think that's what you would want to do is have more units and then not have to give up autonomy to it. But if it's for the rule of the world, they might do a nuclear strike. You might do a nuclear strike. So that's kind of what I just wanted to do a show. But that's kind of what I wanted to put forward is the importance of there is pursuit. Some people are just so like, yes, it's real, it's going to save us. Others are like, it's just a calculator. I don't care. The fact is that the U.S. or the economy and military of the United States and the economy and the military of China both think it's something worth pursuing at all costs. That's something to take note of. So I don't know. And lastly, and I still don't even know if the whole Musk Trump thing is if that's theater or not. I tend to think it is. But somebody tweeted like a month ago, they're like Elon took Doge into the, whatever the government and he came out in 2 months blackpilled. Said something along the lines of like it cannot be cut. The beast is too big. And he said the only thing that's going to get us out of this is AI, autonomous robots, and expansion into space. It's like in Reykjavik when Reagan and Gorbachev could not agree on SDI. And they left, and it was cold. And it kind of went to like, hey, we're going back down to DEFCON 2. If they're doing that, you'd have to say, well, why are we now going to DEFCON 2? That was always an option. The Cold War is at this point 40 years old. That was always an option that we were going to go to DEFCON 2. Why are we doing it now? And you'd go, it was always an option. It was a fallback. You have multiple contingencies. But what we wanted to do was go try to talk it out at Reykjavik. Well, why? Because there was a more appealing outcome without the use of force, a common ground. Well, then why are we not falling back on this DEFCON 2? Well, it's less appealing, but it's our fallback because the primary one just didn't work. And there's a reason it was the primary. It's because the outcome was more sought after. We're willing to do this thing, DEFCON 2, get ready to nuke them. So when I look at Elon coming out and going, it can't be beat. We must use autonomy, AI, robots, and space. I look at that and I go, that was always an option. That was always an option. Why was that not used on January 20th? Well, the same way you don't want to just go to DEFCON 2. I would imagine there are some drawbacks. Just like well, how come we didn't go? Well, DEFCON 2 also means we want to go to DEFCON 1, which means the entire Earth is going to be radioactive cobalt salted. You go, well, what was option A? Option A was we'll try to cut it, we'll try to reduce the rate of bloat, etc. That didn't work. So he didn't come out, he didn't draw it up and go, I found another answer. It's called autonomy, robots, space travel. That was always on the table. But there was a reason he didn't want to use it, which I imagine if you draw it out to the nth degree comes back to it eventually leads to you have to give it more than 49% autonomy. There's a bunch of interim steps, but I think that's probably how it ends. And this also might be the other shit we're seeing. Elon leaves because it can't be done, and then we also start to see a bunch of big tech bros getting these. To me, that says Reykjavik failed. Whatever it is. Maybe Doge was a cover for negotiating with China. I have no idea. But to me, it says option A failed. So we're doing option B, which still works, but it's a lot less desirable. So that's kind of what I wanted to get out and put into words is just that general idea. So I don't know if there's really anything for you to take from that. So I don't know. I also have no idea what I'm talking about. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't listen to me. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, "Our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments." A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a blue room soon. www.blueroom.com